All right, all you guys and gals, thanks for checking out this video. I've got some exciting announcements for you. So first of all, I want to welcome our Driving for Dollars app users. That's the main reason why we're shooting this video here today. And I've got some exciting announcements for you, or we'll call it one big exciting announcement and another one coming. The first announcement is that we now have drive tracking. So for those of you guys that have been asking for it, now we have it. And so what is drive tracking? Well, drive tracking is basically the ability to see where you've driven while you have the app on your building lists out in your farm areas. So previously we had the ability to basically look at the screen and you can see where you drop pins, which are the homes that or the houses that you added to your Driving for Dollars list. And generally it's pretty easy to see where it is that you've been. But if you're not the one building the list and maybe there wasn't a pin on any particular street, you don't know if somebody drove that street, right? And maybe even if you were driving, you forget because you see so many streets. So we made sure to create the drive tracking feature. It took a little while to get out, but now it's out for everybody that has an iPhone. It's coming soon for Android. I would say the vast majority of our user base uses iPhone. So for those of you guys watching the video, you probably have an iPhone and you're using it, or if you don't have the app, go get it. If you have an iPhone, you'll have drive tracking. If you have an Android phone, you'll have it here very soon. But basically, like I said, it allows you to drive the streets, and then it shows that on the map. And we can kind of insert a picture here, a screenshot of a phone that we use in our own business when we're driving for dollars, and you can see how it highlights the streets that you've driven on. So what I want to talk about real quick is how to kind of prep for before you drive, because now that we have drive tracking, you can see where you've driven, which is a very effective feature so that you're not double driving areas. But one thing that we do before we drive is we really kind of pick an area that we want to drive, essentially a farm area that we want to drive and we want to continually market to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen, and in doing so, I'm going to pull up a section of Southeast Portland in Redfin here, because that's kind of the easiest way to do it. And you'll see here, you've got a very kind of heavily gridded area between, let's call it Southeast 52nd and Southeast 27th, with Woodstock being the north border and, down here where I'm running my cursor being the south border. So when you look at this, if we were going to do Driving for Dollars in this area, which is called Eastmoreland in the Southeast Portland area, you basically have all these streets, right? It's very heavily gridded. You've got, a lot of streets that run north to south, and then you've got the cross streets that run east to west. So what we'll do is we'll focus in on the area and say, okay, this is where we want to do our Driving for Dollars today. And this is probably a reasonable area here, this box to get done in one day. And it would probably yield, if it's a decent area, you've got probably 200 to 300 Driving for Dollars leads that you could get in that area, given depending on what type of property you're looking for. If you're looking for just a complete, POS type property, maybe there's less. But if you're looking for some that, are not only complete POSs, but they're also maybe dated, lived in, they could use a lot of updating, maybe an add-on remodel. There's kind of that tweener type property as well that you can buy and sell and make a margin in the middle right now as well. So you might get a higher number doing that. But the point here is that you want to really know where you're driving first. So this is how we do it: is we basically pull up either Google Maps or we'll look in Redfin here, and we'll decide on which part of our market we want to drive on any given day, or which farm area we want to then create a Driving for Dollars list for. And so if we were going to do Eastmoreland, we'd look at this and we'd say, okay, here are the boundaries. This is where we want to drive today. And then once we do that, then I'll stop my screen share here. Once we do that, then we go out into the field. We know what our boundaries are going to be, or out into the world, we'll call it. And then once we open the app and we start driving, we can then drive the streets that we kind of planned before we left. And so by doing it this way, it's a really great technique to organize your lists so that they're specific to an exact area. You're not just willy-nilly driving all over the place. That's one thing that I think people do when they go driving for dollars. And the reason why they're not, super effective with it is because they're just like, oh, I'm going to go drive here today. I'm going to drive there. You got to think about it a little more. And even if you have people driving for you, plan for them, tell them where they're going to drive, and then use the drive tracking feature to make sure that A, they drove where they were supposed to, but B, to make sure that you hit all the streets within that as well, because you don't want to miss streets, because sometimes it's the streets that are hardest to find that have some of those little gems on them that not every investor finds, because they're kind of hidden. They're a little tougher to get to. They're not on major streets or major cross streets. So anyway, that's our announcement. Couple other things I want to talk to you guys about right now is marketing on a budget right now, right? We're in the Corona world. People are a little bit short on money, short on marketing dollars. And so I want to go through some things that you can do in utilizing the app to really kind of market on an effective, smaller budget, right? So the app has plans that start at $19.99 a month. One of them is unlimited list building, so you can build as many and as big a list as you want in any given month. But it doesn't come with skip tracing, right? So you'd have to skip trace it outside of the app. We can do it for you, or other services can. It's up to you how you want to do it. Or you can choose the $99 or $19.99 plan per month that comes, with it's the lowest tier, but it comes with skip tracing. And so with that, you can actually skip trace within the app. I would suggest, right now, choose the tier that allows some skip tracing within the app, so that then you can immediately execute some of these marketing tactics that I'm going to tell you about right now. So, for us, the first thing that we do, of course, is we decide where we want to be, like I mentioned. Then we go out and drive those areas. And so in doing that, let's say you start building a list. And if you're going to build a big list, the marketing towards that is going to be a little different than if you're building kind of smaller, let's say like, it's a one-off property, or maybe you look at 5 properties that day or 10 properties that day that are really, really good properties. The type of marketing that you do to those different types of lists can be different, right? Because if you build a list of like 200-300 properties in any given day, it's going to be really difficult to cold call all those leads immediately, right? You've got to kind of run them through a bigger marketing machine. But if you only pull like 5 really, really good properties in a great area on any given day, just while you're driving around, you can put more effort individually into marketing those properties. And so I want to differentiate the strategies depending on what type of list you're building. Is it a big list, or is it like, God, I've driven by those properties a bunch of times. I need to, pull out the app. I need to skip trace them, and I need to try and get a hold of these people real quickly. So let's talk about the smaller list first, right? Let's talk about, you're on your way to the office, you're on your way to another project, and you notice 1 house, 2 house, 5 houses that are just like the perfect investor grade type property that you really want to buy. So what do? Pull out the app, right? Open it up, and you'll have an overhead view of where you're at. You'll see it on the map, and then you'll see the house either to your right or your left or in front of you, wherever it is. You pin the house, and then immediately save the list, run the skip trace, right? And once you do that, you'll get information on who owns the house as well as all their contact info. So what I would do, and what we do is on those really, really good A plus type leads where we're just doing kind of 1 off or 2 off or 5 off type list building, is I'll run the skip trace within the app on the spot, and then I'll immediately try and call the owner. And you'll be able to see, is there a landline, is there a cell line, and I'll just call them. And usually we'll call the cell phone first because that's what most people have. And if they're older people, usually they have just a landline. So if you don't see a cell number, it means they're probably older, and that's why they just have a home number. Not always the case, but most of the time. And so you can pretty much just cold call them right there on the spot. If you don't get them, of course, you can leave a message, and then you can also send them an email right there out of the app. Just click on the email from the skip trace, and if you have email on your phone, it'll automatically populate it, and you can send them an email about the property. So we do this all the time. We'll call people, and then we'll immediately send them a follow-up email. Or you could call them, leave them a message, and if they don't pick up and you don't get to talk to them, send them an immediate text message, in addition to the message that you leave. And you could do those things right there, which are basically cost-free, right? You have the app, and you can do those small things that really make a big impact in your marketing, but they don't cost you anything, right? So that's one way to do it. Now, if you're building a bigger list, or you're having somebody drive an area like I just showed you, and you build, let's say, a 200 person, 300 person list, or property list in any given day, now you've got to execute a little bit more mass marketing to effectively get people to contact you. So one of the things that we do is, obviously, we run skip trace, right? So if you've got a little bit bigger package with the app, if you're doing 300 properties a month or whatever it is, make sure you have the tier that fits that, or 200 properties. You run the skip trace on all those. You make sure that you get all the contact information. If there's some contact information that doesn't come through on the skip trace, you can always reach out to us, and we can try and rerun it to make sure that it does get you all that info. But once you get that, now you have who owns it, where they live essentially, and then all their contact info. So what we do is we start off with direct mail. We'll send them some form of direct mail to start off with. And then from there, once they get that direct mail, we ballpark takes about 2 to 3 days to deliver it locally anyway. On that 4th day, we'll send them a ringless voicemail, right? And that ringless voicemail will mention the mail piece that we've sent them, kind of a follow-up, and that spurs a good amount of response that wouldn't have responded just from the direct mail piece. Then, beyond that, if they haven't responded to the mail piece and the RVM, we'll then send out a text message in blast that says, "Hey, I sent you a mail piece. I left you a message just trying to connect with you via text," right? And that'll get a whole nother wave of people that contact you. And then after that, we'll send them an email, right? So we'll basically go mail, RVM, text message, email, and then we'll go through that cycle all over again and all over again. And so that's how we market some of the bigger lists. And then, of course, we'll do cold calling for kind of the A+ leads within that bigger list as well, to really try and connect with people. So that's kind of some of the strategies that we use. You guys can use them as well. Very cost-effective marketing for the most part. The most costly part is going to be the direct mail piece, but you can always remove that out of the equation as well if you don't want to spend the money on it. I know a lot of people, choose not to do direct mail right now, but we do. It's been the foundation of our business forever, and it only improves your chances of getting people to respond. So right now is a great time, with a lot of people taking a step back. They're not spending money on marketing. They're not actively engaging in their business on a daily basis. Right now is a great time to get out there. And if nothing else, redrive areas that you've driven before. Improve your lists, right? There's areas that you probably built lists maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You can improve those lists. You can kind of thin out the fat. You can get new ones or new leads within those areas. That's what we're doing right now. You can also identify and drive new farm areas, right? And that's a thing that I would definitely do right now, and take into account the type of product that you want to buy in this new market, right? Maybe it's like newer built stuff versus older built stuff that you can do quicker kind of surfaces rehabs and then take them to market. Or if you're a wholesaler, you can find those properties, and those are the easiest ones to flip to rehabbers who then take them to the retail market. So build lists in new areas around different type of product that maybe is a little easier to fix and flip and sell it on the retail market. And then of course, obviously you can do the spot skip tracing as well while you're doing this. It's a great way to talk to people because there's just not a lot of people that are doing a ton of marketing right now because everybody's taking a step back. So hopefully you guys can use some of the tips in this video. If you've got the app already, make sure that you go into, your iTunes store app updates on your phone, update the app, and it'll insert the drive tracking feature into the app. If you don't have the app on your phone, go get it. It's called the Driving for Dollars app, and it's in the iTunes store and the Google Play Store. So other than that, folks, get out there, get marketing, use the tips I told you about today, and make sure that you use the app. I'll see you next time.